Choice is yours. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with
That's a good intro. Early voting continues across the country as we head toward Election Day on Tuesday. But polling reveals record dissatisfaction with both Democrats and Republicans. In 1994, the Pew Research Center found 6% of voters held an unfavorable view of both parties. Today, that number has jumped to 27%. Now, a group of breakaway Republicans and Democrats has formed a new group called the Forward Party. Brooke Silva-Braga met with their leadership as they plan for this election day and beyond.
Number 2 is Austin.
What does it look like to start a new political party?
That one seat could be critical.
That one seat could be critical.
Christie Todd Whitman, the former Republican governor of New Jersey, and Andrew Yang, the one-time Democratic candidate for president, are finding out.
There are other parties out there. There's a Green Party, there's a Libertarian Party, but I think what you're attempting is different or bigger than that. When was the last time someone in America accomplished what you're attempting?
Well, nobody really has. Well, I guess you could say the Republican Party. That's how it started, as a third party.
We're talking 1860.
Right, exactly. It was a while ago.
Ever since, Republicans and Democrats have controlled America's government, and the Forward Party argues the growing us versus them conflict between the parties
there's nothing smart about you, Joe.
is at the root of America's current problems.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
We have to reimagine what American politics can be, because this version is going to tear us apart. It's going to lead to strife, bloodshed, dysfunction, and worse.
We've seen it.
Your enemy is not your fellow American. It's not your friend and neighbor. But it's a system that actually profits from turning us against each other.
What does the Forward Party stand for?
We stand for free people, thriving communities, and a vibrant democracy.
And we'll have a platform, but it's not going to be the kind of platform that people are used to seeing.
Meaning it won't be that specific on policy. The party is staking out mostly centrist, often vague positions because, they say, most Americans are themselves centrists who just want to see things get done, even on issues as contentious as abortion.
Most people believe in some form of choice for women. 15 weeks, 20 weeks, it used to be 20 weeks. You can get people there. But we're being told, no, you can't. They don't want to solve the problems because they want to use them against the other side. George W. Bush sent a bill to the Hill on immigration reform, and it was a place to start. They never even held hearings on it. Neither side wanted to give the other a win.
2/3 of Americans say we ought to have more than two parties.
Lee Drutman is a political scientist at the New America Foundation.
So why don't we? Well, we don't, because we have a system of elections that makes it hard for third parties to compete.
Dozens of other democracies have some form of proportional representation. A party winning 20% of the vote gets roughly 20% of the seats.
19% to Ross Perot.
In the U.S., winning 20% of the vote gets you nothing.
But Governor Clinton got an overwhelming majority in the decisive electoral vote.
You tend to have just two parties because votes for anything other than one of the top two parties winds up being wasted.
In his book, Breaking the Two-Party Doom Loop, Drutman recommends a change that would help third parties, having fewer larger congressional districts, but electing several people from each one. Finishing third would make you a congressperson. Enacting some kind of electoral reform is so essential to a third party's chances, it's become the Forward Party's core priority.
The only two policy positions that we really ask of people is open primaries and ranked choice voting.
Open primaries and ranked choice voting are already being used in a few places, including, recently, Alaska. In a contest for an open congressional seat this past summer, 48 candidates competed in a single open primary, including Republicans Sarah Palin and Nick Begich, independents like Al Gross, and Democrats including Mary Peltola. The top four advanced, though Gross dropped out. Then, in the general election, voters ranked their choices in order of preference. The candidate with the fewest first-place votes, Begich, was eliminated, and his votes redistributed to those voters' second choice. Because many of them preferred the Democrat to his fellow Republican, Peltola, who finished fourth in the primary, won the seat.
You have right now independents who are on the outside looking in, and if you give independents a real voice, then you wind up with different results. And our recommended changes don't advantage one party or another, they advantage the voters.
While the party works to popularize the new rules it needs to thrive, it's also trying to influence the system as it is by endorsing independent-minded candidates this cycle and planning to run their own congressional and Senate candidates in 2024, but not necessarily a presidential ticket.
We'll do anything we can to make sure that Donald Trump does not get near the White House. And so we would not in any way be a spoiler in that kind of a contest.
So if he's the nominee, you would not run for president?
If to do so would be to increase the odds of him winning, no.
So why even care about a fledgling party that might not even run for president? Well, Forward says it could manage a shortcut to power in just the next few months, using something called the fulcrum strategy. In Utah, Forward is backing independent Evan McMullin in his race for Senate against Republican Mike Lee.
How many senators does it take to determine policy at this point? It might just be one. And there's a chance that the Forward Party can have like that kind of power.
You're hoping it's Evan McMullin.
Well, you know, if it's not Evan, it could be someone else, though I will say Evan's already said he's not going to caucus with other parties, so that he could functionally be the fulcrum as early as January of next year, which is what the country wants.
Whether the country wants the Forward Party is yet to be voted on. Drutman says a successful third party will probably have to stake out more specific, compelling policy positions than Forward has so far. But as someone longing for reform, Drutman hopes Americans' interest in change won't be limited to who we vote for, but how we vote too.
We tend to view our system as fixed, as unchangeable, as we just got to muddle through, but it's not fixed. It's not unchangeable. We've changed it throughout our history. We're not fated to be sleepwalkers into a democratic collapse. We can choose.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Brooke, Silva-Braga, Washington.
2/3 of Americans would like to see more than two major political parties.
And people want a voice.
Yeah.
They want to feel heard.
It makes sense. I mean, that idea.
Open primaries would help that.
Yeah.
Right. But the idea that all it takes is that one, especially in the Senate.
You see it.
Particularly, you've seen it with Joe Manchin making a difference. But wow, they're being smart about it. They're looking at those individual races down the line before they hit the presidential ticket.
It'll be interesting to watch it over the next few years.
They're also making their own decisions, though, at the end, right? Which is an interesting part of it. It's not completely listening to voters.
So yes, of course.
Yeah.